show. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of A Student's Perspective. I'm Natalia, and today we are here with Lora Appleton, founder of Kinder Modern and the Female Design Council. It's so great to be with you here today, Lora. Can you tell the people watching a little bit about yourself and basically how you became to come where you are today in your career?
Hi, Natalia, and hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be on A Student's Perspective today. I had a really interesting growth to my career. I did not start in design. I've always been a creative artist and worked in different mediums. Straight out of college, I worked in documentary film. My first job was with PBS on American Masters.
Mm-hmm.
And that really laid the foundation, in my opinion, for telling a visual story. After, I should say after documentaries, but I found the documentary film world to be very low paid and complicated, and I really wanted to get on a different side of creativity. And I launched my first design firm, which was a boutique branding and design firm that focused on print and interactive work. And so for 10 years, I made everything you can think of. And I was most attracted to the projects that were restaurants and nightclubs where I got to work on signage and full physical identity of the space. And I was really much more attracted to working in glass and steel and plastics and all of these materials. And so that was really what drew me into furniture design.
So, an art director in a sense, you were.
I was an art director and designer. It was a small shop. We were at our biggest, about 10 people. So we would work with, let's say, a restaurant who had an idea, and then we would take it all the way from idea through execution. Um,
Helping
so
with all of the design through and through.
not so much on the interior design. We worked on the branding design. So part of the physical part of that was usually the signage, the bar menu, all of the printed components, advertising, all the communication pieces. And with the size of properties that I was dealing on, we were wrapping buildings, we were doing airport kiosks, there were bus backs, like tons of outdoor display for launching projects.
Mm-hmm.
So again, back to the materiality, that's the stuff I had the most fun on and wanted to do more of. I had sort of, after I closed that business, I was a bit lost and not sure like what I was going to do with my career. I was an art director. I didn't really want to work with clients on that side anymore. I felt like I needed to have the vision be my own instead of their vision. And I was lost. So I took some time off and woke up from a dream, which this has happened twice. Both companies came to me in a dream, and I really saw Kinder kind of in my mind's eye. And I woke up in the middle of the night after the dream, knowing that I was going to open this gallery. And I called my best friend at the time, who's an interior designer, and I didn't have interiors experience. I was like, you have to come work with me. I have this great idea. We're going to launch this gallery. And he was like, yes, don't call me in the middle of the night. And, so he joined forces, and he was my original partner in launching Kinder.
Wow.
And very soon, like we knew we had found this really interesting niche of design for children. For those of you that don't know, Kinder Modern is a design gallery. We focus on original historic design, as well as have really charted the contemporary design landscape with children's furniture. Meaning, when you see really amazing designers working in gallery furniture, I wanted to see, well, what are the kids, right? Like there's all these beautiful magazines with beautiful homes, and we don't often see the kids' faces. And so for me, it was really important to fill in those blanks.
So yeah, why children? What initiated your thought that this kinder modern needed to be for children?
I had not seen any furniture for young people that was well made, that was creative, that facilitated the developmental needs of children. All of the furniture I kept seeing was disposable. It was crappy. It was stuff that you would buy when they're a baby, and then when they hit toddler, you throw it out or you give it away. And so I hadn't seen anything that was something you'd want to keep. And you think about all of that interaction, like we all can remember our grandmother's chair, our grandmother's knickknack. Like there's a sentiment that I was looking to imbibe in modern day works that could be something that you carried for generations and also created positive impacts for the children using it.
Yeah, being a having a minor in furniture design as well, I find when creating pieces, we tend to think that we need to make it multi-purposeful. You can use that at one stage in your life, but then you can also carry it on with you throughout your life as you change, and it can change. And I find that pretty interesting, and I feel that's exactly what you're talking about here. Something that we invest ourselves in, and then you want to be able to carry with you throughout your life. It has like meaning and purpose with it. It's not just the one time stage of your life where you have it.
Yeah, and I prefer to think about it as mixed function rather than multi-purpose. And the only reason I say that is I'm not big on transitional furniture, meaning like a crib that transitions to a bed, that transitions to a couch or whatever. I find all of that a little gimmicky. Sometimes it can be really cool, but I love the idea of a piece of furniture that, like for instance, my studio designed, it's called the Eclipse chair.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is just a simple weighted chair, but it was built with the back top being higher and more stable so that an adult can sit simultaneously with the child. And it's just those little details that engage different kind of use that I'm really interested in, that's really thoughtful about whose hands are on this for how long. How does it enhance their day by day? How does it look in the room when it's left alone? Can it look the same in another room, or can it offer different options once the kid grows out? So it's not that different from multifunctional, but
It's the same mindset you kind of carry throughout it, and that's a really interesting approach to it. I wanted to know your thoughts on, because your design can be described as thoughtful and practical. I thought those are pretty two words that pretty much describe your design. I was wondering if you can like just tell me a little about that.
well, thank you. I don't think I often hear thoughtful and practical. I often hear over the top and wild. And so I appreciate that because I think we are very thoughtful. And
Especially just talking about the little notions, the little details that you were just talking about.
yeah, my design philosophy is about digging into the developmental needs of the person using it. So when we're dealing with children, there are different needs at different ages. And so we've really dug into, okay, well, when you're certain, let's say toddler age, you're dealing with solo play. When you
Mm-hmm.
get a little bit older, you notice there's more parallel play, meaning that children are playing independently but next to one another. Then you get to the stage of interaction. So these are all, just using this as an example, these are all, you know, developmental sort of hierarchy of ages. And if you build furnishing that has natural materials, interesting materials, or have texture or touch in different ways, you invite these young people in to explore. If you've ever seen a child, like we've done this experiment many times where you put a chair in the room or a piece of furniture and you let children in, the way they approach that piece of furniture is not like a grown-up. They don't pull it out and sit on it. They climb on it. They make a fort out of it. They they use it in their play. Like they really think about
They
making
see it so much
good
different, yeah,
very differently.
than we would. And it's
Yeah.
very, yeah, and you're kind of in tuning those feelings within your designs. How do you draw that inspiration, or how do you draw like those notions just from your observations?
It's all of it. It's research. It's looking back to look forward. I will tell, this is my one, not my one, but this is a very important thing for all students to think about. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't historically look at what's come before, how can you effectively design for the future? And what I mean by that is we as furniture designers need a level of awareness of what's been in the world, what works, what doesn't. Historically, looking at how things were made gives you indicators on how to push those theories and those concepts into more modern times. So I think it's really important to look at the history, look at the need, look at the budget, look at all the factors of what kind of flexibility you have in materiality, et cetera, and then create a brief for yourself to push yourself to be innovative. A chair, like who cares? We don't need another chair. But we do need innovation, and we do need chairs that function for now, chairs that work in a mixed family home, meaning intergenerational living. Like, what does a chair look like that serves 3 or 4 generations? And so those are the ideas I'm trying to push into furniture design.
Yeah, I would say, would you say that was kind of a point in your thinking when starting kinder design, that that's when you wanted to incorporate historical design, or has this always been kind of like your mantra, your thought process?
Well, the historic design, I actually sell original pieces. I have one of the world's best collections in historical design for children. My pieces go back to 1890, but primarily fit from the 1920s to the 1980s. So, and we sell to, museum collections as well as collectors and families. Like anything I bring into the gallery is about use. I'm not just about having it sit on the wall and look pretty.
Yeah.
So historic design has a massive underpinning in the business. Without it, I don't think Kinder Modern would exist in the way that it does today.
Um, I know your gallery is very specific in that that it talks about your gallery program, and your exhibitions are a bit different than others you were talking about. Do you think you can explain that a bit?
Yeah. So I've always looked at my practice as twofold. There's design for sale and design for thought. I really, from the beginning, wanted to introduce the design public and people in general to this incredible niche of design. It's exciting to me to think about the world of children, and you know a lot of these designs were first occurring by really amazing historic architects of our day who were designing schoolhouses and various things, and had to design the furnishings in those places. And so they all, like I own a set from Hans Wegner, who had designed this set for Borg Mortensen's son's christening. And it's called Peter's Table and Chair. And it's this iconic set that also was reproduced and can be bought new production today. And so, with all of that influence, I forgot the question.
It was kind of more about your gallery programs.
Oh,
And,
right.
yeah, and
Right.
your exhibitions, how it's so different than I hear from others.
Right. So, our exhibitions at Kinder Modern have been about highlighting theories of thought within design for children.
Yeah.
One program that I found, that we started at the Collective Design Fair in its inaugural year, and that was a little overview. There were a lot of historical pieces from the 20s to present day. I had only two contemporary works sort of showing where we were headed because I wanted to build the contemporary side out because it didn't exist when I started really. There were a few makers all over the world here and there, but no one had really focused on that. And then it grew into more pushing the theories, the idea of materiality. I commissioned a show for the Pulse Miami show in 2016. I worked with acclaimed designers Chen and Kai. And Chen and Kai Williams are material-based designers. And I challenged them to come up with a collection for children that looked into the joints in furniture, like historically, and how furniture was joined, and is there a way that we can look at that through a modern material lens? And so they built two collections. One was a homostote collection. Homostote is a compressed paper, and they did a series of hand brazed brass action points. And then they did a fiberglass and iron kind of a nod to Eames that was all compression joints. And so this was a really great opportunity to show and have so many different conversations about the work, right? We're looking at how does furniture come together? We're looking at making wild works in wild materials for people under 10. So there were so many things to speak about, also with such prominent contemporary makers in an art fair. So I was really into, and still am, into these kinds of kind of subversive conversations about design.
Yeah, you're still dipping into all those little factors: art, color, history, furniture. It's
exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of where you are with your multi-mediums that you kind of use. Do you feel that your background in that multi-medium, being an artist, has helped you come to just help you decide who to collaborate with, or just in general when designing a piece?
Yeah, I think honestly, even you calling it out like that means you've done your homework because not many people think about me in those terms. And I really, for 20 years, I've worked in all different mediums. And mostly, even though I went to art school at Tisch, like I focused on directing, and it was a very different program. So I don't often think of myself, like I don't have a current art practice, but I use everything in my kind of professional wheelhouse that influences how I look at work. I don't need someone to be fiscally successful or been in a ton of shows and had press, or like after talent, humanity, good people, honesty. I'm attracted to people because I see something in their work that's a spark that makes me think of something different, and I push through.
Yeah, I think it's something that you have in your favor in that sense, because you came from not necessarily an art background, but I would say that the industry itself is pretty versatile, that you can consider directing and all that stuff. They have a lot of similarities, and it's that eye of being able to relate to people, being able to see something in someone. That's all very important and very relative.
Well, I appreciate that. I've had a ton of interviews, and I don't think I've ever had someone notice that in that way. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, give yourself some credit. um, what about your use of color? So I was researching some of your pieces and some of the articles that you've been featured in, and specifically maybe in your apartment. Yeah, I just wanted to know if you had a specific color theory to you, or was it something that just pops or comes to you?
I live with a lot of color. I changed. So my old place, I used to have, and different apartments, I always used color on the walls, and everything else was more neutral and subdued. I really enjoyed being enveloped in that colorful, like my living room was rhubarb red. My hall was literally Hershey chocolate. My other room was plum, very bold color. And then when I moved into my next apartment, I made a conscious effort to allow all of my work and my collections and the things in my home to have that color. But in general, I'm really attracted to bold colors, saturated color. I feel like color can transport you in mood, in tone. It pulls everything together, and I really enjoy a colorful through line. I mean, in terms of color theory, I like pushing clients. I like pushing people's ideas of how to live with children. I prefer using more saturated individual color than pattern when it comes to kids, because there's tons of patterns for kids and it's like overkill. And so if you land on a solid, everything else can bounce off. So color is a big part of my creativity.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people are actually scared of color. Or specifically more even just designers, like when going to build a furniture piece. You can kind of just leave it as is, or like, why not push it to like have this vibrant color? Why not push it? Like, I found myself like in that whole notion as well. That's so interesting. That's so funny. Also, in your I was looking at an article, I think it was an Architectural Digest, about that specific house or apartment that you like to you have a lot of family heirlooms around you. I know that's a very big part, and I think that speaks again to like the whole historical and history of what you like to be immersed in.
Yeah, I've always had an attraction to things. I've been flea marketing and estate selling since I'm a young 8-year-old girl with my grandparents. And I was always really into the found object. I loved the thrill of the chase, the object itself. I love thinking about who owns it, like what's the history of this item. I think also I have a very small family. The only people left literally are my mom and my son. And so having these items
Wow.
makes me feel centered and reminds me of the people in my life that made a difference for me. And they're also mixed in with tons of other collectibles of unknown families and unknown legacies. And I find that really interesting because I appreciate how it colors my world. Um, it's a bit of fantasy too. You get to like really think about that object, or it really brings a lot of flavor in, and I love that.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. I have here my great grandfather's vintage furniture from the 1930s, actually, that my father had kept in our basement after they had all passed away, and it has been in great condition, in pristine condition. And I decided when redoing my room here, I was going to replace all my old furniture that I had as a child, and then install this and refurbish these pieces. And yeah, it's a sense of like my parents have never been more proud of. They're like, wow, like my great grandfather was using these furniture, and it's the stories, it's the history. It's not just a furniture piece anymore. So
I love
I'm yeah, so it's very very cool. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the Female Design Council. I know you are the founder of that. Do you want to speak on that?
Yes, I would love to speak on that. So the, I'm just trying to think where to start on this. There's so much.
From the beginning.
Hold on one quick sec here. So I started the Female Design Council softly in 2016. It began right after Trump was elected. I was, like a lot of women, very overwhelmed and frustrated how women were being talked about in the media and being treated. And as a creative and as a designer, I was really tired of only reading about one or two women in the press.
Mhm.
And so I felt like I needed to establish a larger sense of community within the female design world.
Mhm.
And so I built this organization called the Female Design Council, and we're a leadership organization that provides a strong professional community for female and female identified persons in design. We are multidisciplinary. Our membership encompasses architects, interior designers, furniture makers, painters, PR communicators who communicate about press, photographers who shoot interiors, etc. Basically, anyone who works in design and is part of the global design landscape. We started as a regular in-person organization where we presented various programming, cultural experiences, panel conversations in order to
Just start the
educate,
dialogue.
to connect people for opportunities, and to really move business and work around.
Just kind of start that dialogue, right, between
To
people.
start the dialogue, to get in the same room, to create an opportunity to network authentically. You know, when you go to a show opening, you're having a cocktail, you're chit-chatting, but there's no value in meaningful exchange. It's not possible. And so I wanted to create a platform for meaningful exchange.
Mhm.
And
Especially
now,
nowadays.
since COVID, basically March 2020, we've transferred our entire business into a digital one.
Very
And so that's been a whole new
nice.
process as well. It's been very fruitful.
Yeah, same here as well. We had to learn to, this usually would be, or we would hope to be an in-person interview. Um, but now this is kind of challenged us. We still wanted to connect. And I feel as though the internet now has kind of given us that opportunity to even outreach to people further, where I was interviewing people. I was interviewing somebody in Austria last week and in San Francisco. So it opened up a lot more avenues than I thought. So I don't know if that was the same on your end, if you were able to have, how has that impacted you and your council?
Well, we had already, at Female Design Council, we had instituted a handful of brand ambassadors to expand in different locations. So we were already growing beyond the United States. This has enabled us to grow quicker. On our digital call last Monday, we have a weekly digital call, which, by the way, is open to the full design community. So for those of you students out there, please join us on Monday call. And we had women from London, Alaska, Vancouver, Los Angeles, Chicago, Colorado, Miami, New York, I believe one from Belgium. So we're getting there. I mean, our intention is to focus nationally and expand globally so that we can, over time, create deeper connections with women all over the world who can work together, find ways to collaborate, sell their work, have people champion what they're doing. And especially now, this has been something we've been working on for some time, but especially now in this very acute cultural crisis that we're going through, the Female Design Council is dedicated to Black Lives Matter and expanding our membership for Black women in design and for women of color, specifically enabling different opportunities for mentorship, scholarships, and to continue to really make a grand effort to have a larger, diverse, and appropriately, uh, like appropriate's not the right word, but to have our community reflect what the community really is.
Yeah, it's, yeah, you guys are the actual, we are the actual community. So I think giving somebody that platform to speak on it is that much more. It's irreplaceable in that sense. It is something that should be given to everybody, and you are in fact giving your helping hand and everything that you can do, that we can do to spread that awareness, I think.
Yeah, and also I'll give you an example of how it works, right? So we have a digital call, we have women from all over, all disciplines. Um, we have a lot of interior designers and architects and specifiers. And what that means is these are people who are buying work and specifying work and sourcing work for specific projects. And so as a maker, you immediately are in a safe, excited space where people want to see your work, they want to buy it, they want to tell their colleagues about it. Like that's what we all desire as makers. And so
that excitement to people, I think, bringing that, yeah, that passion back in if there was ever any doubts.
or just opportunity, right? Like a lot of times it can be really overwhelming for a maker to figure out how to get their work out there, how to get it to the right buying public. There are different chains of purchasers. Like my business is Kinder Modern. We're a trade business. We may read like we're consumer, and we do sell direct to consumer, but we're like 98% trade. And so for us, we just have to hit the trades.
Yeah.
But even in this context, we have direct access that we wouldn't normally have. And it's a community that wants to lift each other up. And that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah. Can you talk to me maybe about some of the events that you guys have held in the past, maybe in person?
Yes. So we have done so many really amazing events with the Female Design Council. We've worked with organizations like the Brooklyn Museum, um, Wanted Design, um, other organizations that we've partnered with to have various conversations that have been about bringing what's the word? Like bringing necessary conversations that we all need to learn about. And some of it is, going through the archives at our company's gallery. And so there's a real awareness of historical design. I've curated a number of shows for the Female Design Council with other external partners.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given me an opportunity to highlight master level work that just happens to be made by women. So that's been really great. And we've translated that into a digital realm where we've been able to have crisis-focused design conversations related to COVID. We've brought in experts in interior design and architecture to talk about the transference to digital design and e-design and how servicing clients has to happen a different way now. We've had different talks related to how to get published, how to think like a strategist, and ways to increase your brand's awareness.
Giving information to people.
Yeah.
Knowledge is very important. Just knowing about a certain subject, just broadening your horizons, even if it's something that you didn't think you needed to learn. It probably is. And that's really cool. Just a couple last questions I wanted to ask you. What was your favorite collaboration, either with partners or artists, anybody that you've worked with? Was there something specific that stood out to you that was different?
I would say my two favorite collaborations, which are very different. One is with New York-based artist, Woody Hoyt. He primarily works in ceramics. He's a very graphic-driven ceramicist. I worked with him to take those ceramics and translate them into a series of rugs. So also at Kinder Modern, I'm a rug designer, and I design very bold, pop-color, geometric rugs since 2014. And so we did the first artist collection series where those rugs are stunning. They're just beautiful works of art for the floor, for the walls. And it was really fun having that material conversation, going from clay into the wool, wanting it to read visually the way your mind captures his beautiful, dynamic, bold ceramics. I wanted that feeling, and I feel like we accomplished it.
Wow.
The second one, or the second project that I'm really proud of and I love collaborating with, was Design Within Reach. Last year, I think it was, or the year before, I was asked to take over their apartment, which is their flagship store on 57th Street in Manhattan. They gave us like 2 small floors to redesign, and they're a very classy, classic design
Yes.
house, and I'm wild and colorful and eclectic, and I really was excited to see how those two universes would mesh. And I think we pulled off a really incredible showcase featuring really classic design within reach pieces with the world of Kinder Modern. And so we had, you know, Brett Douglas Hunter, Fiber Creek, crazy creature chairs mixed in with my bold rugs, mixed in with the wishbone chairs and tulip tables. So it was a really nice way of just featuring how we really lived with furniture, right? Like in your home, you might have your great grandfather's hero,
Mhm.
IKEA piece, a flea market find, a classic brand item, and it's how we all put that together. And so they
Mhm.
really gave us the opportunity, and I was able to design and install my version of what that would be.
Wow. That's so interesting because, again, you're pushing that idea that they can be one, they can collaborate with one another, a company like Design Within Reach, and then your boldness. It can, and you were able to find that balance, I think, and accomplish that really well. That's so awesome.
I mean, that's what we all do, right? We all have our individual style. We take our little pieces and we create, and that's how we live. Like long gone are the days where you buy a room,
Yeah.
where you're like, let me get this set of furniture. Like that's just not how it goes. So I wanted to create collections of pieces that fit into people's lives in the way that we're living.
Yeah, I think there's something to say about like talking about inspiration or drawing inspiration from everywhere. Art is everywhere, and I think it's about like how do we put our own spin to it, our own like originality to it, that kind of makes it that much more different. Because like you said, there's tons of designs out there, there's tons of chairs, there's tons, but how do we make it like ours? I think that's kind of what you've accomplished. So thank you so much for talking with me today, and all of us here at A Student's Perspective. If you could just tell the people at home where to reach you, maybe a website that you can refer them to, or an Instagram handle, and then even if there's somewhere where females can join the Female Design Council, if you want to refer them to places like that, you can.
Yes, you can reach me at on Instagram at Kinder Modern, or you can go to kindermodern.com and email direct. I'm really open to hearing from anyone. As far as the Female Design Council, it's femaledesignCouncil.org, and our handle on Insta is at Female Design Council, and that's really open. Our Monday talks are often open to the full design community, regardless of gender affiliation otherwise. So we welcome all people, but certainly women and women identified persons are more than welcome to join the Female Design Council, and anyone interested, hit us up.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again, Laura. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you. Sorry I was late.
No problem at all. Thank you guys. It's been another episode of A Student's Perspective.